Hello. I have some samples here for my private drinking water well.
Okay, what are you testing for?
I'd like to do a full domestic analysis.
Okay. It'll be about 10 working days for this to be finished.
Great, thank you. Well, let's go back and take a look at what happens after the samples reach the lab.
Hi, Adam. I'm Wynn. How can I help you?
Well, I just dropped off 2 samples at the front desk for a full domestic analysis on my well, and I'm interested in what happens to the samples now.
You have 2 different bottles because one of them is for your coliform sample and the other is for all of the chemical constituents. When the coliform sample comes to the lab in that container, we add the reagent to that container and actually put it in an oven and incubate it overnight. So tomorrow afternoon, we will know whether or not your sample is safe for coliform analysis. The chemical analysis has basically 3 different steps to it. One of the first ones is what we call the positively charged particles in the water, which are called cations. Those are things like sodium, calcium, magnesium, and potassium. These are critical because the levels that they are in your water will affect how much your water will create sudsing and how much it will corrode the pipes and the appliances in your home. The second category is what we call anions, or negatively charged. These are what attach to the positively charged cations. How these connect is what makes your water have its characteristics and taste. The common anions that we look for are alkalinity, sulfate, and chloride.
What is the third category that you mentioned?
The third category is nitrates. They are toxic at a high enough level. When we received your sample today, we took that sample and we poured some of it off, and we actually added an acid to it to preserve it for the nitrate test so that the sample would not change until we could perform the test. Nitrates have a critical level, especially when you have babies under 6 months of age and or pregnant women drinking the water. This is also an excellent indicator of whether or not you're having an effect from a septic system or farming near your area. Nitrates are very, very rarely naturally occurring.
Why is it important that people send their samples to a certified drinking water lab, and what does that mean?
It's important for people to send their samples to a certified laboratory because a laboratory that is certified to do all of the tests that you have a concern about means that they have run samples for the government and for the state, and the state has come out and inspected their laboratory to indicate that they do know how to run the method and run the method correctly, because everyone wants to make sure that the numbers that you receive back from the lab are as correct as possible.
Thank you very much, Wynn. I've learned a lot here today, and I look forward to receiving my results and learning about my water quality.
Well, you're very welcome, Adam, and if you have any questions when you receive them, please call or come by and we'll try to help you interpret your results.
After we've received our results from the lab, the next step is understanding what these numbers mean. So looking at our lab result here, we have a column on the left-hand side which lists the parameters that we tested for. Then we have a results column which indicates what they found in the sample. They have a units column which indicates what they're reporting it in. Milligrams per liter is a typical number. That's used interchangeably with parts per million in a lot of cases. There's also a column for the reporting limit, which is basically the accuracy of the test. And then there's a little bit more information oftentimes about the method, the analysis that was done, who did the analysis, and when it was done. Looking here, for instance, at the result for nitrate nitrogen as nitrogen, the result is 0.24 milligrams per liter with a reporting limit of 0.05. The drinking water standard for nitrate nitrogen as nitrogen is 10 milligrams per liter, so we're far below that. Nitrate nitrogen is a primary drinking water standard because it can cause health problems. Looking at this second sheet, we have the results for bacteria. Total coliform and E. coli are both typically listed, and the result simply says absent. This is typically a presence-absence test for bacteria, and there was no bacteria found in this result, which means it's safe for drinking. In the case that you receive a positive bacteria test, contact your local health department for advice. A positive E. coli test is definitely a concern, and you should discontinue using the water or boil it before drinking until the problem is addressed. If the E. coli test is negative, but the total coliform test comes back positive, don't panic. Address any problems with your wellhead that could be allowing contaminants to reach your well and conduct a second test, being very cautious not to contaminate the sample. If your well is contaminated with bacteria and shock chlorination is necessary, there is an extra chapter on this DVD that walks through the process. The U.S. Environmental Protection Agency, or EPA, has set drinking water standards which are not legally binding for private well owners as they are for city water supplies. But the health research that's gone into setting these standards still makes them a reasonable frame of reference for understanding your water quality results. These standards are called maximum contaminant levels, or MCLs. If you search the EPA's website for MCLs, you can find that list of standards. You can also contact your local health department or county extension agent for information on interpreting the results. The Northern Plains and Mountains Regional Water Program also has an online interpretive guide which you can type your results into, and it will give you feedback about what the numbers mean. Once you've interpreted your results, it's important to keep good track of this information. Well folders are available from a variety of sources which have information about the well and septic systems on them. Keep your well test results in that folder and keep it in a safe place. Other information you should keep in there is pump maintenance or any kind of maintenance to the system. You should do the same thing for your septic system. That way, if you have a problem in the future, you have a good source of information for what has happened in the past. A good track record of your water quality will help you to identify trends in the water quality and will help you to figure out when a problem started if something arises in the future. You want to keep really good track of these records and keep them in a location that's safe where they can be turned over to a future homeowner as well. If your lab results do indicate that you have problems with your water quality, the first thing you want to do is to try and identify the potential sources of that contamination. Are there improvements to your wellhead that you can make to address the contamination? Are there land uses around your well that you need to consider? In the case that you can't address the contamination source, there are alternatives, including installing a water treatment system or looking at alternative sources of water for drinking water and cooking. The Northern Plains and Mountains Regional Water Program does not endorse energy laboratories, but simply that the lab you choose is certified by the EPA to test drinking water.